A lot of you here at SOCAP are driving real impact on a daily basis. But how do we scale that to reach the enormity of need? John Hagel has written a lot about passion, and I want to talk about how individual passion can scale into collective capability. Over lunch, back in January of 2020, John Hagel and I discovered that we had each come to a similar conclusion over our work in strategy, and that was namely the powerful role of psychology and the paradox of today. So those of you who know John, you know John loves talking about paradox. We live in the most connected age in human history, and yet people feel more isolated than ever. We also have more tools, more knowledge, and resources for change. And yet people feel more pushed apart than pulled together. Why is that? Many of our initiatives for social change today are driven by threat-based narratives. The climate catastrophe, democratic demise, economic meltdown. These threats are real. But when we lead with them, something counterproductive happens. Fear spreads faster than hope. People feel helplessness. They feel more isolated and suspicious of others, and more likely to choose denial than try to understand the complexities facing us. So the result? People, well-intentioned people retreat to their couch. A huge lost opportunity. We also have many well-intentioned individuals, passionate individuals, doing meaningful work in their communities, but in isolation, each one fighting their own little piece of the problem, but unable to achieve the scale required for real change. So what works? John Hagel has studied successful social movements over history, high-performing organizations, and extreme athletes. So he spent time with big wave surfers out at Mavericks. A half-mile offshore, these athletes face 60-foot walls of water that can kill them. You'd think they'd be paralyzed by fear. Instead, John found them every morning gathering in small groups of 3 to 8 surfers, exchanging insights on wind patterns, wave dynamics, and safety techniques. And they weren't just talking. They were actively pushing each other to attempt something that seems impossible. Now, what struck John was not just the individual courage, but what they had created together, what John calls impact groups. So these are small, trust-based communities of people with shared passion who support and challenge each other to achieve far more than anyone could on their own. These surfers were unknowingly demonstrating something profound about how change happens. So John has identified 3 elements that consistently enable people to move beyond fear and create extraordinary impact together. These 3 pillars are laid out in his latest book, The Journey Beyond Fear. So the first pillar, opportunity-based narratives. So we start on the inside. What stories are we telling ourselves that inhibit us from taking action on issues that matter deeply to us? And then, when we're ready to activate, what language do we use to invite others to join us? When we lead with opportunity, people's energy shifts from defensive to creative. So the second pillar, passion of the explorer. Now, there are many different definitions of passion, but what John means here are those activities and topics that fuel your focus, energy, and your commitment to action. And in case you're skeptical of this capacity that everyone should has, he says, meet me at the playground. Watch those 5- and 6-year-olds fearlessly exploring every climbing structure, inventing elaborate games together, and constantly asking each other, what happens if we try this? He says this passion doesn't disappear. Instead, it's our institutions, starting with school, that convince us to suppress it. So we need to help people reconnect to that inherent sense of passion and excitement about having increasing impact on issues that matter to us. The third pillar is learning platforms. And this is especially interesting when it comes to taking impact mainstream. So remember, we were just talking about the surfers. The surfers don't stay isolated. The best ones are connected into networks where knowledge spreads rapidly. So a breakthrough technique that's developed in Hawaii, it spreads to surfers in Portugal within hours. Through learning platforms, individual passion can scale to collective capability. Now imagine if every one of you in the room and all your friends were part of an impact group, a small team passionate about similar challenges, coming together on a regular basis, not just to network, but to drive concrete action, to take a concrete action and learn from that and apply that learning to the next concrete action and continue that vital cycle of learning with each additional action toward real impact. And then imagine that each one of these groups were connected on platforms that enable them easily to share breakthroughs, seek advice, and collaborate more widely. At the Center for Growth, we are building just a platform now. The future truly is collaborative because it's the only way we can scale to meet today's challenges. So we need to help people emerge from the debilitating weight of fear and overwhelm. We need to bring people together so that we can scale passion into impact. Based on John Hagel's vision, we launched the Center for Growth with in-person and online programming, coaching, and supported impact groups for individuals and teams. We believe small teams, small groups, learning together can set big changes in motion. You know, driving real change is a bit like big wave surfing. The challenge can seem impossible, and you don't want to try it alone. So who will you bring into your impact groups, and what can we achieve together? Thank you.